Units of the 110th Mechanized Brigade repelled a Russian assault near the village of Novyi Komar in the Donetsk region. The Khortytsia Operational Strategic Group reported on this. The enemy used a column of armored vehicles, consisting of 3 tanks and infantry fighting vehicles with troops inside, to attack. The enemy assault was fought off in several stages. The first stage involved using FPV drones to destroy infantry fighting vehicles with troops inside. The first infantry fighting vehicles were hit and stopped, and the rest of the troops scattered and sought cover in the fields and forests. Then, the brigade's external pilots began to work on the enemy tanks, which were left without cover and became easy targets. Thanks to the pilot's skill, the tanks were hit in vulnerable places to cause significant damage, and even if they had been evacuated, their recovery would have been impossible. Thus, the enemy lost 3 tanks and 1 infantry fighting vehicle in the failed assault, and personnel losses remain unknown. The village of Novyi Komar is located about 50 kilometers, 31 miles, west of the Russian-occupied town of Vuhledar, where defense forces are trying to gain an advantage over the enemy, as the Russians are not giving up their attempts to capture it. According to the Deep State resource, the village is captured by Russians by about 50%. The rest of the village is a gray area, with a small section where the Ukrainian defense forces managed to liberate the territory and gain a foothold. The enemy is throwing significant forces at this area and suffering heavy losses, trying to outnumber the defense forces in terms of personnel and equipment. In addition, there are attempts to assault in the immediate vicinity of Velyka Novosilka. Units of the Presidential Brigade stopped a Russian assault in the Vremivka area of the Donetsk region. Their advance took place near the village of Velyka Novosilka, where Russians have recently been conducting assault operations, hoping to break through the Ukrainian defense. Russian forces have still not reached the outskirts of the strategic eastern Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk, a Ukrainian military spokesperson has said. Moscow has been battling towards Pokrovsk for months, with Kyiv frequently reporting the fiercest fighting along the front lines to be in the area east of the city. The Ukrainian-held logistics hub of Pokrovsk, close to the western edge of the Donetsk region that Russia has long wanted to fully capture, has been referred to as a fortress settlement, key to Ukrainian defenses in the east and connected to other critical defensive cities. With under 3 weeks until President-elect Donald Trump is back in the White House, both Moscow and Kyiv are throwing their all into putting themselves into the strongest possible negotiating position. Some officials in Kyiv and Eastern Europe worry that a deal brokered by the incoming president could come at the expense of the best interests of Ukraine and NATO's eastern flank. Western and Ukrainian analyses show Russia has advanced south of Pokrovsk in recent weeks. In 2024, Moscow broadly advanced at its fastest pace since the start of full-scale war in early 2022, although there were questions about whether it could sustain this pace when battling in residential areas rather than open fields. Chasiv Yar sits west of Bakhmut, the Donetsk city Russia claimed in May 2023. But Moscow has struggled to quickly move westward through Chasiv Yar for more than a year and a half since. Some reports in late December said Russia may have captured Kurakove, a town southeast of Pokrovsk. The popular Ukrainian war tracking blog, Deep State, has assessed as of Thursday that Russia controls the town. The Washington, D.C.-based think tank, the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, said on December 26 that Moscow had likely seized Kurakov after 2 months of more intensive attacks. There are no urban battles going on in Pokrovsk, Viktor Trehubov, a spokesperson for Ukraine's Khortytsia grouping of forces operating in the east of the country, said in remarks reported by Ukrainian media on Thursday. Russians have not reached the outskirts of the town, but they are trying to encircle it through neighboring settlements, said Trehubov. Moscow is using drones to attack around Pokrovsk, the spokesperson said, adding, "Everything the Russian forces have right now is focused on the area around Pokrovsk." Rather than directly attacking Pokrovsk, Russia hopes to bypass the town, Trehubov said. Russia is also contending with urban battles in the towns of Chasiv Yar and Karakhov, said Trehubov. Russia's advances will likely slow as Moscow's troops head further towards Pokrovsk, coming up once again against more residential and built-up areas. Angelika Evans, a Russia researcher with the ISW, told Newsweek in August. Russia's advances are likely to continue in eastern Ukraine, despite pledges from the outgoing President Joe Biden's administration that weapons and equipment are being rushed to Ukraine's frontline defenses.
Уровень 35, наворот 59-15. Готов!